Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this YD Live webinar. My name is Raja Sidana. I'm one of the co-founders of e-GMAT. I'm going to be your host today. Today we have Shaunak with us, the former, I should call a current e-GMAtter, who has a 770 and phenomenal admission into both Emory and and Tepper, right? And ISB. So I think I just want to just add some context to today's session. Today's session is about a few things. We're going to talk about the GMAT. Shaunak started with a 580, I noticed, and went to a 770. We're going to talk about how did Shaunak get to that 770, and then we're going to talk about essentially um, his application strategy. Shaunak did a bunch of mistakes while applying, and we're going to look at what those mistakes were, and what can you learn from his mistakes. And then the third thing is about deciding where to study. ISB versus Stepper versus Emory. How did Shaunak make a decision? What were the considerations that he had overall? So Shaunak, welcome to the session. And I see we already have questions here. We'd love to take those questions. We'll do this interview for about uh, 40 minutes or so, and then we'll reserve about 20 minutes for the Q&A towards the end. Okay. So, Shaunak, welcome to the session. And why don't you give a brief background about who you are? What is it that you currently do or you've done? And I think let's kind of keep that about 3 to 4 minutes, and then we're going to go right into the core of this.
Thank you, Rajat, for inviting me. Well, to give you a brief about my profile, I would say I have been working into oil and gas EPC sector for quite some time now. It's almost 4.5 years, and then switched to SAP. So I did my bachelor's in mechanical engineering from Nagpur University. Got a job at Nigeria, worked there for around 1.5 years.
Hmm.
Switched to EPC industry, worked and got a job again in Saudi Arabia. So worked there about 2 years, and now currently I work like I left my job initially last week only, and
Hmm.
what I do is I work in the SCP implementation domain as a
Hmm.
business lead. Recently got promoted and recently left my job. So yeah, that's pretty much about me. I'm a operations and procurement guy who loves who diversified his profile by working in business development. So that's about me.
That's a good way to look at this, and we're going to talk about the operations piece over there because that did go into your the number of schools that you applied to and which schools you applied
Yes.
to. So I think we'll talk about that. But let's kind of talk about that GMAT preparation now. So you're talking about this. You initially started. You used a bunch of books. You used the OG. You then came to e-GMAT with a score of 580, is what you told me. So,
Yes.
and then you had a six. You prepared, but for some personal reasons, even though you were expecting a 740, you got a 650, and then
650.
you got this phenomenal 770. So let's kind of talk about when you had this 580. What were the key problem areas that you had, and then what are 3 areas where e-GMAT helped you?
Sure. So as it turns out, like GMAT is a adaptive test, so it takes your how you are able to solve those questions, and it takes everything. So it's a collective score that you need to worry about. I was lacking in verbal to say like I'm a mechanical like I'm a engineering graduate, so quants is easy for me, and as it turns out for every Indian, not every, but for
Many
most of
Indians.
us, like
I would call it.
it's easier. Yeah.
Yes.
So for most of us, it's easier to solve maths problem, but not verbal. uh, I knew my weaker area is verbal. So in that area, I believe e-GMAT helped me a lot when I was trying to learn about concepts like pre-thinking concepts or anything. When it comes to RC strategies, I think e-GMAT helped me a lot. So my preparation was I did what I did in that sense was to go through the concept files, uh, and then prepare with the customized quizzes that are available at GMAT's dashboard. So I used to do that. I used to rigorously follow the calendar. I would say the master comprehension session that Payal has was the first area which like it helped me a lot when it comes to
It
RC
helped you how to
strategies.
think about reading a sentence and other.
Yes. Yes, and when it comes to like whenever I'm solving RC passages, so RC passages are three types: short passages, then medium passages, and long passages. So in longer passages, I used to fumble a lot. I used to take like almost 5 minutes just to read the passage.
Hmm.
So in that, coming like going through the passage and coming up with a main purpose of the passage, like giving it headline and coming up step by answer. So I used to follow her advice in that, and I used to do all those questions. So I believe that area was quite a like it was tough for me. But after solving few concept files, after solving few questions, I learned a lot. So that in that area it helped me. Like e-GMAT helped me a lot, I would say.
So just incidentally, we have the RC session this weekend, and Piles. I mean, after I think 8 months or so, Pile will be hosting this session again. So if you can share the link of the session, if you want to join this is this Saturday. That would definitely. It would help you, and I know when Pile does a phenomenal job. That's the reason why
Yeah.
she's rated GMAT Club's #1 instructor. So let's talk about pre-thinking, and I'm kind of biased towards pre-thinking. I created the strategies that we talk about at e-GMAT. So how did pre-thinking help you?
Uh, like whenever you're solving CR questions, you should know assumptions and all. And there's this 2 hour session that you recorded 2 years back. So
Mhm. I still
so
do it,
if,
by the way.
if yeah,
And
okay. So
that's the following week, but
yeah.
yes. So
So pre-thinking, like CR is not a like as I told you that my verbal was pretty weak. I had to do a lot of concept files. So I would say pre-thinking how it helps is it gives you a structure base. So once you grasp the concept and once you're able to see, okay, this is the reasoning behind that question, and these are the like whenever there were 3 4 lines question for CR, I was not able to answer it properly because I used to see the options directly
you would go
without
directly to the options.
directly the options. But what pre-thinking helped me, it helped me. Okay, this is the question, and this should be this is the question. This should be the answer. So I used to once I used to read that CR passage, I used to go through the options, and I used to know, okay, this option is right. It in that sense, I think pre-thinking helped me a lot. Yeah.
Okay. All right, perfect. That's good. So we have the link to the RC webinar. Also, Shaunak talked about pre-thinking. If you're a free trial user, you have 3 pre-thinking videos, which I think do a much better job than I do in my webinar. So definitely take a look at those. Um, and so I think that's really good. So I think I also want to talk about the other thing. So March of 2021, you felt you were ready. You were scoring 740, 750
Yes.
marks. You got a 650 on the actual GMAT. What happened?
Yes. A lot of interest actually. At the time, COVID was on the peak, and I recently had lost my aunt. So
This was when the
just a
Delta
day.
variant was at its peak, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry
So
about that.
I recently had my lost my aunt. So it was a pretty tough time for me for our family. So I gave my exam somehow. I thought I did pretty good, but maybe because of the hindrances that were there in my family as well as the COVID scenario. And initially, what happened? The center had a short it had an electricity breakdown. Something happened, so it also created a lot of disturbance. So I think all this scenario came together, and I think I did poorly in my exam. But yeah, I scored 650. I was happy. I was going for my application with all those like Indian B schools, ISB, SPJMR, as well as IIM Ahmedabad's 1 year PGPX.
Hmm.
But my parents told me you can give one more try. Afterwards, I did I thought thoroughly, and I decided, okay, let's give one more shot. And in the month of May, I decided to give another exam. But I think at that time, because of COVID again, the instant exams were not available, so I had to opt for the online exam, and I gave in the month of May 15th. Yeah, and at that time I was happy. I scored. I had prepared well, and I was able to score. I think I scored 770. I was thinking about 730, 740, but ended up having 770. So I was very happy.
I think this is kind of one of the things that's really important. So even though in March of 2021 you had that potential, you had that ability to get a high score, it's just when our mind isn't as focused, both in quant and verbal, we can underperform, and that's kind of what happens with any test. I mean, whether you're talking about the GMAT or the GRE, both of them are adaptive
Yeah.
in a certain way, and it can happen when you even when you're at 80% focus. It's not that your performance you perform at an 80% level. You probably would perform at a 60% level because that's kind of where you make mistakes on those hard questions or so. and that's where this is there. Now, when we talk about mistakes, we have also a geometry webinar. We focus on quadrilaterals in this webinar. And again, even though you may be really good in geometry, if you want to, but if you still make mistakes in those data sufficiency questions, definitely register for this webinar. That's something that will help you get there. We'll talk about process skills in this webinar. All right, so let's talk about applications, and let me just look at the list of questions that I have. So you had the 770. It was in
Yeah.
May. You had a lot of time, and you applied to 20 schools, right?
Uh,
20, or you say even more than 20. We're not going to go beyond 20.
yeah,
So
I applied to like MBA schools also, and I think few
so I think,
masters in
hold on,
supply
hold
chain
on. I
management.
still don't have my question. So I want to just understand. Let's kind of talk about how you structured your geographies. Where were these schools, and what was your thought process behind looking at these schools?
Sure. So as I told you, like in the month of March, I was pretty ready with applying to few schools in
Yeah,
India only,
650
and
was
I
fine. You said
six
ISB is going to
fine.
work.
Yeah, like I thought I have international work experience. I'm pretty sure like I know what they want, and it's okay. Like for ISB, GMAT does matter a lot, but I knew I can at least get an interview invite from ISB as well as IIM Ahmedabad. Also, SPJMR was like I knew I can just apply and I will get an interview invite.
Mm.
Which I eventually did, but I didn't attain the interview. That's a different reason. So, so I was pretty ready with applications, and when, but post May 15th, when I got my school in the month of May, uh, I had a weird strategy actually. I knew I come from operations, so I wanted to apply to operations school. So when it comes to geography,
You love your
I
job.
knew
Bottom line
yeah,
is you
I
love
like
your job.
I like job. Yeah, I like my job, which is to work in procurement and supply chain. So that's for sure. But when it comes to geography, I would say there are very few schools which are like they are specialized masters in European schools. So I knew like Polimi, MIP Polimi, Politecnico di Milano. It's in Italy. So it has a great masters in supply chain management program. So I knew I can apply to that school. So I wanted to apply to that school. I knew I can apply, and there were few others like um, UCD Smurfit, University College Dublin Smurfit School of Business.
Yeah.
So it has a master's in supply chain program, very very good. Then WU Vienna University. So these are
UCD
few.
California Davis is what you're talking about.
No. UCD is in Ireland. So it's in
Oh,
Europe.
UCD
It's
is
in
in Ireland.
yeah.
Okay.
UCD is Smurfit. Yeah, Smurfit. So I knew these are the few geographical locations which I can apply for master in supply chain. When it comes to MBA, I was pretty all over the world. Like I knew I wanted to apply to LBS. I knew I wanted to apply to INSEAD because my friend was going there. My friend went there last year, so I knew I wanted to apply to INSEAD. Then US being like every person has an American dream, so I knew I wanted to be in America. So I thought, okay, let's apply to American school. So that's how my structure was. But but yeah, like it was more focused towards the post masters career, which was into operations. So I knew in
Applied to 3 schools in India, 2 in Europe, and then 15 in the US or so.
yeah, something like that. Yes,
Around about that or so. And so if you were to go about doing that again, how would you
I would
so
not. Yeah, I would never do that. Do
what
this
would you
again.
do if you were to what's wrong with doing this, and then how would you approach this again?
Yeah, it takes a lot of time. One thing, it takes a lot of time. Second thing is it takes a lot of hell lot of money. Like I spent around two to 3 lakhs only in applications,
Hmm.
and then
Just the
consultancy. So
application fees. We're not talking
yeah,
about admission consulting here.
nothing. Just for the applications, I paid around 2 to 3 lakhs, 2 to 2.5 lakhs. Yeah, and consultant in addition to that. Yeah.
Okay.
So I would never do this if I
So
were
how
to
would
do
you
it
do it
again.
if you were to do this again? So I mean, we are
Uh,
in June of 2022. Let's assume we are 24 or 12 months back. What would you do now? Knowing
uh,
what Shaunak
yeah.
knows now.
Yeah, I would like if I were if like the current me, if I were to give advice to my past me, I would say research a bit about where you want to go. It's about the career that you want to have post your MBA or post your masters in anywhere, and research about the location. So instead of going all over the world, I would stick to one location and strategically apply to 5 to 7 schools. That's it. It saves money, it saves the headache, it gives you an ample amount of time to research about the school individually, and then you can talk, like you can think about, okay, these are the 7 schools I applied, I have few months of time, then I can apply to in a few other schools. So at max 10 schools, not more than that. This is the advice that I would give.
So then let's kind of talk about this. You talked about in a pre interview call. We were talking. You're talking about researching for schools,
Yes.
right? So tell me, what are, if you were to really just say, give advice to someone to how do you research for schools? So step one, do this. Step two, do this. Step three, do this. What would you say?
So like I had a 770, so I knew every other school was in my reach. Like I could have applied to Harvard, I could have applied to Wharton, I could have applied to Stanford also, but I never thought about it. So I knew I had less years of like, work experience. Also, I have a typical mechanical engineering, like typical Indian male engineering background. Even though I have an international work experience, I would not like. I thought I should not apply to Harvard, Stanford, Wharton. So I knew I can apply to top 20 schools. So I would go through the rankings first, then go through the school career placement records, reports, and all, and then we'll talk to people from LinkedIn, like alums and all, current year students, and then
You
think
talk to
about it.
people on
Okay,
LinkedIn.
yes, a lot. Like I must have spoken to around 80 to 90 people. Yeah,
80 to 90 people.
yeah.
These are current students and alums.
Current students, alums, everyone, like 5, 10 years back, alums to recent alums, 2, 3 years back to current students.
Okay.
So
So
like I
rankings,
had a plethora of schools.
rankings, placement, talking to alums. Okay. Then
Yes.
what else?
Fourth would be having the clarity why MBA makes sense for me. Like initially, I was all over the world. I knew I wanted to do masters in supply chain, then masters of business administration. Eventually, I finalized on MBA. So having the clarity why MBA makes sense for me. So I had a 4 years of work experience. I knew I was stuck in a career. I wanted to switch to a role which can give me more exposure to international environment. In addition to that, I wanted to have a change of scenario, location. So Indian scenario was not something that I was looking for because I had a international work experience. I worked in Nigeria, then moved to Saudi, and I was handling the Middle Eastern department for my Middle Eastern region for my current firm. So I wanted to have this global exposure, and for that, I believe the location made sense. So I was open to Europe, I was open to US, and that makes sense. Okay, you want to work in this demography, apply to those schools in that demography. So
Got it.
these are the few areas.
So let's kind of, I want to go into Dell. So rankings, you start with rankings,
Yeah.
then look at the placements. What did you look for in placements?
Uh, uh, so each and every school in US, at least in US, the data is not fudged. That's what I believe, and that's what I've heard from the alums
Yeah.
also.
We
And
we
I
fire we fire the deans who fudge. A couple of them tried to fudge data and they were
Yes,
fired.
yes,
Yes.
yes. So what I look at the employment records, employment stats is first the percentage of international students who got employment within 3 months, 6 months, a year,
Okay.
or at the time of graduation, and the bifurcation in terms of industries like consulting, finance, operations, general management, and then PVC and
Where do
all.
they get
So
placed essentially? What job
yes,
functions, what
yes.
companies? Yes.
So these areas, and then the firms which are hiring for those roles. So there are very few firms which will hire who want to hire or sponsor for H1B. So I knew I wanted to be in US. I need to know which firms are hiring. So I'm like
How
having
did you
this
find how did you find that out? I'm curious.
what about the
Which firms are
about
hiring?
So LinkedIn is a great resource actually, and also a few of my friends are already working in US. So I knew Amazon hires for like Amazon sponsors for H1B. Then there are firms like ADP or GP Worldwide. So these are few firms which are into supply chain. I had a more leaning towards supply chain. So I know these are few firms which I can apply post my MBA, and these firms should be coming, like they should have a presence in that college or in that business school. So for example, if it's ASU WPK, I
WPK.
know for a
By the way, that's
yeah WP
20 miles
yeah.
away from my house.
So I know for a fact that in WPK, GP Worldwide hires a lot. Like they hire like crazy. So they will hire for supply chain consultant role. And this is something that interests, like
So
it
you were
interested me a
very
lot.
focused as to where you want to work. You said, "This is where I want to work. This is what I want to do. Let's kind of create an intersection of these are the firms which work in this area. This is where they hire from, and let's
Yes.
kind of see where those schools are."
Yes, and
That's
eventually I followed this strategy in finalizing my selection. Like I had ISB, but I knew US is much better because even though GP has a presence in India or any firm, they have more global. Like the work that you do in US, the
in the
market
US.
that US has is much better and much bigger than
That's
India.
true. Okay, so that's good. By the way, I was talking to another set of e-GMAT, so a husband and wife couple who got into tuck, and these guys haven't. So I talked to you and I said, have you had your visa interview? You said, I have my visa already. These guys have not had their visa interview as of yet. Um, but what they were talking about is they accepted into tuck, and tuck's already sending them the list of companies that sponsor H1Bs. So
Yes,
even though they
yes.
haven't even started, these are the placement offers that happened last year. Historically, so USB schools do a phenomenal job preparing you with regards to this.
Yeah, even Emory did the same thing for me. I gave, I think, a couple of I sat through a couple of one-on-one coffee chat session with firms like McKinsey, BCG, Bain. Then I even applied to pre-MBA internship via the career center at Amazon. Unfortunately, I didn't get through it. Like I just got my result. It was no longer in the consideration. But yeah, I did that. So the schools are helping. Yeah, they do a great job at that.
They do a
Also, I
wonderful job.
went through a couple of resume workshops and all.
Mm.
In that also they helped me a lot,
That's
quite a lot.
really good that they're already starting to prepare you for
Yeah.
this. I think that's phenomenal. So I want to talk about this one other thing. We're not talking about school research here. We're talking about that still. Um, so LinkedIn, you said you use LinkedIn to reach out to people. Explain 2 or 3 ways in which you use LinkedIn to reach out to people, and then also I want to kind of go into what did you do? I mean, once you
Sure.
got them on a call.
Sure. So like I'll give you a LinkedIn. It's the best way to connect with people, but it's pretty tough. Most of the time, if you don't have a common or mutual connections with the people that you want to interact, they will not respond to you. So what I used to do, I used to I used to have mutual connections with the person that I want to have interaction with, and I will start emailing like 70 to 80 a day. 70 to 80 people. I'll just send my connection request. In that connection request, I would say, hey, hi, I'm applying to a few of the schools. I have this much score, and would love to hear about your experiences when you were doing the same thing, and how you ever how was your experience, or what would you suggest me what I should be doing. So that's how my approach was. And once I got through it, like I got to them, I would ask for the mobile number, contact number, and would talk, like we'll have a initial WhatsApp call, then a call, and then a video call. So
So
that's how
WhatsApp
my
and
approach
then
was.
Zoom. Is that what it was?
Yes, WhatsApp and WhatsApp video call, not Zoom. WhatsApp and WhatsApp
Okay.
video call. That's how it used to be.
It's kind of the same way in many ways. Yes. So that's good. Uh, my internet seems to be going bad for some reason. I don't know why. Uh,
Yeah.
but anyhow, as long as you can hear me, I'm pretty okay. So now let's kind of go back to this and so what would you talk during the call?
With the LMs or with current year student or anywhere, uh,
Anyone.
like okay, if I were to apply to a school, like let's say when I was talking, like for example, I'll give you the failed rejection, like the rejection that I got from tuck. So when I interacted with tuck alums, I used to talk about what is the school's like, how is the school's culture, or what do you think they will appreciate in my application. So I never used to ask them to review my application, or I never used to ask them to review or help me write my essays.
So
this is
no
this is
homework
this
for
is
them.
one. No, nothing, nothing. I just used to ask them, how was your experience? And from their experience, I used to gauge, okay, this is something that is very, very important to Tuck people. So I know Tuck has a very, very strong community oriented, like they have a very strong community. So in my application, even though I made a very, very good application, I know because I had a feedback call from Tuck that they
Yeah,
said that you had a
that's
great,
also very good about that. They will tell you why they rejected you, right?
yeah, they told me. They told me almost half an hour discussion was it. So I knew that they have a pretty good strong community network, a community oriented something like they have a pretty strong community. So I knew, okay, this is one factor in which I can make impact. Or when I'm writing my essays, I can show them that this is something that I did for other people. So that's how my approach was. Like for Emory, whenever I used to speak to Emory people, they used to talk about our school is very small. It's only 180 people, and we have a tendency to be among ourselves. Like they want to help only Emory people. So that's how the approach is. So for the essays of Emory, it was pretty straightforward. Talk about the school and what the school can help me with, and what I can contribute towards the school. So this was my approach for whenever I used to speak with people. And there is one application I remember, it was pretty tough for me. That was, I think, INSEAD.
Oh, inside is a
So
very long application.
yeah, I made a mistake there. Like I applied in round one, and I made a mistake that I didn't prepare well. Like I had a good application essay. I had a good application essays, like the job specific questions or the motivational essays questions. But when I had a conversation when I had conversation with alums from INSEAD, I got this feedback that my application was more towards what I have done. It was not. It didn't sound humble. So that was the feedback that I got, and from then and there onwards, my approach completely changed, because in the month of January I
Hold
got
on, hold on, hold on.
yeah,
So you said you got feedback from alums.
yeah, I got like this I
How
got
did you
after
get that
the result.
feedback?
After the result, like after
So
the result,
who
I
were
asked
these
them.
alums?
So there's this I can name the person. His
No,
name
no,
is
no. My
Daniel.
question is, why did they give you feedback? I mean, it takes a lot of time to give someone feedback.
No, like once you start interacting with people and try and make a connection, they tend to become your friends. So that's how I am. I can make
People
friends.
do spend time once they like you, is what you're really saying.
Yeah, that yes. So the guy liked me, and he was good. Like he was free at that time, so he said, okay, let me review your application. Oh, like why did they reject you? I'll give you my own perspective. So he gave me a nice perspective. I had a conversation with him, and he told me that my application was more focused towards my contributions in my work stream. It was more focused towards what I have done, what I can do, but it was not on INSEAD, why INSEAD, or
What would the
the
school
hum.
bring to you?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
So
got it.
that made a sense for me. So that's the reason I was very happy at that time. Ki, chalo yaar, the guy has given me feedback, and I know why I got rejected at least.
That's something which is very nice about you, Shaunak. I mean, you've had rejections in life, and you've learned from those rejections. There are people uh, who basically, once they have a failure, they just need someone or something to blame. And for you, that's not the case. You actually understand where um, you really look at rejection as an opportunity to learn from, and you really say, okay, this is what I can learn from, and I'm going to take what I had, then take the learning, and build something better. And I think that's one of the big reasons why I wouldn't have expected, just to be very clear, someone who's applied to 20 schools to get 10 plus interview invites, and to get
Well,
this phenomenal scholarship that you've had. But just because of this attitude, you've been, you've improved with every rejection and every feedback cycle, I think. And the very fact that you've spoken to so many people, I'm sure you would have learned a lot from their feedback as well.
thank you for the compliment.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it is, I think, it's something that all of us can learn from over here. And a lot of these people are talking about the GMAT, and I think the same thing applies to the GMAT. You had a 650. You didn't come and blame us to really just say, hey, e-GMAT, what the hell? I was getting a 740, and now I have a 650. You kind of understood, okay, you still have that potential. You have these data points that were there, and and so. And you prepared again. You got not a 740 but a 770, and I think it was
Yes.
that attitude that helped you get there. So we talked about school research. We talked about talking to all of these people. Just if you were to really say beyond that, what's the most challenging aspect of an MBA application? And then after that, we're going to go into scholarships. We have about 11 minutes. So yeah.
So application essays are important for sure, and knowing about the school is really important. But post that, I believe having a sense why the school should select you in interviews is really good. Like it should be the it was the toughest part for me, for at least like I had to interview with 12 schools.
Hmm.
I thought I did pretty good, and like I converted 5 to 6 schools, but eventually I felt like I was not able to convince those people. So like for giving you a reference, I had a great interview with Darden. It was the
But
best interview ever with Darden. It was the best interview with Darden as well as with Kellogg, and both of them like were almost 45 to 50 minutes long. And I had a proper story. I narrated them everything, but and the interviewer liked me. Like with Kellogg, it was with Darren, and with Darren, it was with admissions team member, admissions director. I can't remember it was adcom member.
one of the admissions
So
directors, yes.
yes. So like both of them were very happy. They gave me nice feedback, and as it turns out, like with Kellogg, it was straight away. Like after a few days, it was a straight away rejection. And with Darden, I thought that I did great, but I got rejected. So I had a post rejection feedback, like a sort of a communication, and I believe she told me that as I applied in the round 2, in Darden, at that time, almost all the internationals were already selected. Like most of the Indians were already selected. So if I were to suggest you one thing, you should have applied in the early stage round, or early action round with Darden. So that was
Uh,
the suggestion that I
yeah,
got.
so I think that because Darden has the early action round and then
Yes,
round
yes,
one practically applied in round three. And a lot of people
yes,
who really like Darden. I mean, so because I talked to a lot of students, um, we actually have, I think, for the next week's session, we actually have another session next week for by an HBS admit. And then post that we have another session by I think a Darden admit who is a full ride from Darden, and a lot of people who go to Darden, they're very very passionate about it, and so they apply in the early action round as well. So yes, I think that part's there. So I think if you can, Manos, you can share Akansha's Anupama's session. I'm sorry, the link to that. That'd be really good. Um, uh, and so she's a Harvard admit. She has 136K scholarship from Harvard, and yeah, so that'd be really really I mean, just we're going to talk about how she went through the Harvard application, and she's not an IITN like Akansha, who we hosted the prior week. So again, coming back to what I was saying, folks who apply to Darden apply early, and there's that certain amount of passion, but what they told you were that your application was good enough. It's
yeah.
just uh
That you applied little late. Yeah,
you applied a little
that's
bit, and
it was
that's
the gist of it. Like they didn't say clearly about it, but when I had like I spoke to her, she told me that you applied little late. So that's
yes,
that's
and,
the
and
issue.
Darden's been a phenomenal skill. So I think that's kind of also where strategizing becomes important
Yes.
in this case. So let's kind of talk about school. So you had ISB, you
Yeah.
had Tepper, and you have Emory. So we're going to just talk about three because I think that's just plenty. So
Even
with
McDonough
IS,
also had. Yeah.
huh?
McDonough.
McDonough also.
Georgetown
Yes.
Mac. Yeah. Yeah.
Georgetown, yes. So, but let's just talk about these schools. And I mean, ISB, you'd stay in India, you'd be with your family, versus you have three schools from the US. So, how did you narrow it down to Emory?
Uh, it was pretty straightforward for me. I knew I wanted to be in US, and
Mhm.
I knew even though
So
ISB
geography
is
first.
as yeah, geography was first. Even I knew that ISB is a top-notch school, in no way inferior to any other school. But when it comes to the scholarship, I believe ISB didn't offer me any, even though I had
ISB
paid
would
the
not
fees.
does not offer any
Yeah,
scholarship. Yes.
scholarship. Yeah. So I had a lot of like I interacted with ISB people a lot. I even paid the fees and then had to withdraw. I didn't receive any money. so
That you
so
got.
that's
Yeah.
that the non-refundable deposit that you pay, you don't get it. So I knew I wanted to be in US, and Emory made sense for me. Like I had a great offer. It was 110K versus no scholarship at ISB, and no scholarship to 20K scholarship at Tepper.
Hmm.
So these were the few options with me, and I knew my career aspirations. Like I said, that I wanted to be in supply chain. So I knew I supply chain is something that I want to work towards. Also, there are firms like in consulting, there are supply. There are specific supply chain strategy practices which you can work on. So I knew there are many firms that I can get into via Emory.
Sure.
So that was another reason. So first was the geography, and other one was the employment trends, employment reports, and the affordability. So these were the three main reasons.
Okay. And now we're talking about the scholarship played a huge role, and I had this piece over here. So you had what 80K loan right now from uh,
100K.
you've taken a 100K loan right now
Yeah.
on top of the scholarship just for living expenses, and I think the fees is what pretty much what 20 25K. What how much fees is left?
So I'll have to pay 30K in addition. Yeah, yeah. After deducting the 110K scholarship, so
Yeah.
that's my tuition fees.
So
30K.
70K you have as living expenses essentially.
Yes. Yes.
And you have that at a phenomenal rate of 6.75% from the school itself.
Yes, from Emory Credit Alliance. Yeah, it has a tie-up with the school
So
itself.
that's a credit union essentially.
Yes.
Okay, so that's phenomenal. That's another piece where when the school showing confidence in you that are backing you up with that loan, not just that scholarship overall. So that's really good. Um, and so, do you think you would have gotten that 110K if you had a 720 or so?
No, I would have never. Like I know I would have been able to negotiate a little bit around 70K, but not 110K for sure. And that too in the round two application. So I got this in round two, not in round one.
Got it.
So I was waiting for my result in US. I was
Mm.
happy with ISB, so I got this scholarship at round two. So yeah,
Got it.
110K even tried negotiating, but they upfront told me that it's not possible for them to increase because it would be 100% waiver,
Mm.
which at this time of time, at this stage in the application, they are not able to do so.
I mean, you
So
mean
that
round two and all of that stuff.
round two, yes, yes,
Yeah. Another benefit with Emory is so that you got your visa very quickly. Because
yes,
small school, they did a lot of stuff. It's a lot more personal than working with a fairly large school or so.
yes.
And so those headaches don't exist as such. Um, do you know about the internships? I mean, where do people go after the
People
first
go. Yes, yeah. I like we have had almost 6 to 8 sessions in just 2 to 3 weeks now
year?
with the current students, second year students, as well as past talents.
Hmm.
So I know for a fact that last year around 100% got in 2020. 99% was the placement within 3 months. And
Hmm.
this year, the second year students have received around, I think they are already placed 80%. They have already placed 80% people in companies. So second year, most of the students have been placed
Oh
for
wow,
internships.
it's pretty
Yeah,
good. I mean, they just graduated, right?
and
With
yes,
2 3 weeks
yes,
or so.
and yes, and the internships, the companies that come for internships are, I think, um, I would say Amazon is there. So
Mhm.
Amazon is a tech company. So tech is a
AWS
school
basic.
agnostic. Yeah. Yeah. So they have like they are not school specific. They come to any like you can
Mhm.
apply straightforwardly. Other than that, PwC, Deloitte, and LEK, Alex Partners. So these are the few firms which do hire regularly from MBA. So I
Got
know I can try and get myself into those.
got it. Perfect. Sounds good. So with that, I think I have pretty much all the questions, Shaunak, that I had. So let's kind of look at some of the questions that people have put in or
Sure.
so. So can you do the GMAT at 33 years of age? Absolutely, Tej, you can. Is it worth it? We've had people who've had an MBA, who've done an MBA at 35, 36. They say it's worth it. It's about what you want from your life because an MBA is really a life transforming experience. I think in a couple of weeks, we'll have a student who, one of our former students, Rohit Malan, who got a 760 as well. He got into Kellogg, he got into ISB and IIM Ahmedabad. He actually chose an IIM Ahmedabad, so it's kind of a contrast. So and he is 32 years old, and he's going to talk about why an MBA is worth. He's already started at IIM Ahmedabad, by the way, and he said so. So Rohit and I've been in touch for a very long time, and so actually last week I was in India, and he called me up and said, Rajat, you've always said an MBA is going to be a life transforming experience, and I can already see that in 2 to 3 weeks. And just to add some context to this, this guy is is a medical doctor. He also is an IDES officer or a former IDES officer, which means he graduated went through the IAS cadre, and he's an IAS officer in many ways. Or so the guy with that kind of experience and someone who commanded a few hundred people overall has in 3 weeks can really see how an MBA can be a life transforming experience at that age. So yes, it's worth it if you know what you're looking for. So that's really important. Let's look at this. Which GMAT's better, online versus the in-center one?
It depends on the person, I believe. If you're like me, you would prefer offline because it gives you like there are less hindrances. But unfortunately, in my case, online was better. I got a great score, so I would say online is better, and it gives you this relaxation that you can give your exam in your home at your in your home comfort. So that's the plus point I would say. So online, yes,
If someone's not coming knocking at your door the way they did in your
yes.
case. Yes.
The in
So I
that yes.
so I think it depends on who you are, as Shaunak rightly said. I just if you're a very territorial person, you say I've got to take the test on my desk, then online is really good. Now there are things you can do to enhance your online GMAT experience. One of the things, Shaunak, did you use Wi-Fi to connect or? Yeah, so I
I
would
use
never use Wi-Fi to connect in an online GMAT. I would always connect using Ethernet to my computer, and so I would invest in doing that. Just as someone who's designed wireless systems in the past life, I don't trust wireless, and especially because I mean, think about it. You're talking about a 3 hour long exam, and you're going to be uploading about seven oh sorry 20 gigabits of information from your computer to that wireless, and is going to break down once or twice during that time. Wired systems don't. So that's one piece of advice that I would say. If you're going to take the online exam, um, do it that way, and so all the enhance on, as we call it, get an Ethernet cable, wire the damn thing to your computer, and it works, because I can tell you this: my in COVID time, my daughter used the same Examity browser, not for the GMAT but for her school tests, and it worked flawlessly. So um, so so the delay happens only if there's a network connection delay, which I am a wireless geek in many ways. So even though she took the exam wirelessly, she had the best hardware to support it. So just I mean, the routers in my house cost about 60,000 rupees. Yes. So yes. As I said, I'm a geek in that way. I designed my first wireless radio when I was 12 years old. So I was using vacuum tubes. So let's talk about the GMAT. But yeah, so I mean, in center definitely doesn't have those hassles. But again, it's you have to go to the center. Online GMAT I think works well as long as you have a reliable infrastructure in place, which I mean I think you should. Um, so 540, 20 in verbal, 44 in quant. How do you don't know how to start? Shanak, why don't you?
start with practicing. It's like it depends on like okay, you have a 20 in
The guy's
verbal.
a 20 in verbal. He has to start with master
Yeah,
comprehension to
he has
begin with.
yeah he has to start with everything, and you have to give your time. You have to have a streamlined approach in which you can give almost 2 to 3 hours a day. I would say if you're not working, if you're working, 1 hour is sufficient, and structure your approach like 3 months, 3 months for like 1 month, 1.5 months for your verbal, and 1.5 months for your quants, and it should be done properly. That's practice and practice and practice and game marks. That's the key to success, I would say.
Yeah, I
Other
mean,
than
I
that,
would
I
really say, I mean, you're starting at a V20. You're very weak with your fundamentals. So, when Shanak says practice, I mean, you've got to start with master comprehension, learn how to read sentences in the way the GMAT wants you to read sentences, then build those concepts. So, as Shanak talked about the concept files over here, make sure you do this. So, at for example, at 20th percentile, you start solving 700 level questions. You're not going to learn a whole lot more. You've got to build that ability up to that point when you can solve this, and that's where start with just one subsection. Be consistent with it. Don't do three subsections in a day, especially if you can just devote 1.5 hours or so to this. Improve that ability, for example, in SC, to that 80th percentile before you start with CR. Do the same thing with CR, then RC. Go through test readiness and cementing, and then go there. So I think It's not so acing the GMAT's not rocket science. Let me just say this. It requires a really planned approach. It requires a very consistent effort. And
So so there is one more thing, Rajat, I wanted to add. Like when it comes to RCs, like initially, like I told you, I used to take a lot of huge time in reading the comprehension, and was not able to comprehend what it means and how to solve those questions. So I was slow at it. But when once you go to the concept files, you don't need to solve the hard question, or even if you're solving hard question, just go. If you're practicing, just take your time, like 10 minutes to 15 minutes, just to read that damn whole passage completely, make your notes, and then solve the questions, and then go towards the solution and check what is wrong in your answer and where you made the mistake. So that I used to do, and that
learning is
helped
really
me.
important. I mean, that attitude
Yes,
of learning, having that
that helped.
is really, really important. Okay. And that's very important. So and that's also, Swapnil, the most efficient way to score a 700. Just focus on one, ace it, for go to the next subsection, ace it, and then go on and go. And if you're an e-GMAT student, write to the support team, and then they'll help you devise that. Now, how do you keep up with that attitude? I mean, just you've had rejections. How do you do that? Uh, so I mean, I'm sure there were times when you would have been down. You would have said, "Man, this is really hard." I even when you were done with the GMAT, you had that 770. You got rejections from business school.
Yes.
Life would have sucked, right? So, what do you tell yourself?
Don't be depressed. That's what I would say. Like it's a part of, like, failure is a part of your life, and instead of like focusing a lot on that failure aspect, it's better to learn from that part of your life. That, okay, chalo, if you failed at one interview and you were not selected for this particular school, okay, let's just focus on the next interview. So that exactly what I did in my application strategy in my interviews also. So that's like I've seen a lot in my life also. When I was in Nigeria, I was like, the essays that I made were on my life situations, on the like the hardships that I faced during those time in my life. Like when I was traveling to a long remote location, how was I able to resolve a conflict. So these were the few areas in which I focused on, and I learned a lot from those. So that's the key to success, I would say.
Okay, yeah. Again, I think that's something which is Shaunak, as he talked about. He would take feedback into stride and he would improve from it. He talked about the INSEAD instance. I think you've got to really understand why you faltered, because in the end, you have to have this attitude of, okay, I've got to improve, because that's the only way. So I think the goal is, in many ways, to chase improvement. As long as you chase improvement, success comes automatically. The problem is, the moment you start chasing success, you chase improvement. It's the same way as when you're answering a GMAT question. If you focus on figuring out, okay, what's the conclusion, what does it mean, and then what does the author assume, you ultimately get to the answer, and you'd be very confident when you get to the answer. On the other hand, if you read the question and ask yourself what's the answer, your brain will go blank. So you've got to follow the process. You follow the process, the output will be there, because I mean that's the reason why humanity has progressed the way it has. And just focus on doing that overall. So let's look at this online exam. Can we use our own scratch pad for rough work?
I used the digital one. I
You didn't
didn't
even
use
buy the
the.
whiteboard.
No, I didn't. I didn't.
So you can
I
buy
was
your
like,
own whiteboard.
yeah.
So if you go to our YouTube channel and you search, I have the specifications for the whiteboard, and what you can, and the markers and everything. That's there. Manas can probably share that as well. Um, you see the thumbnail and me holding a whiteboard in that. So just click on that and watch that. Okay. All right, guys. With that, if you like what we talked about, please press like. Let Shaunak know. And if you're an EG Matter, if you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you have questions about your GMAT preparation, then write to me at rajat@gmat.com, and be happy to help you. Um, and if you have other questions about for Shaunak, definitely make sure that that essentially you put those questions in comments, and we'll see if we can get a hold of him and get him to answer those questions. Okay. Um, I think we have another question. Pulkit already said. So Pulkit says, I'm an edtech entrepreneur. I've done a bunch of things, is successfully built from 0 to 1. So what's the question, Pulkit? Let's just wait for him. Let's see if there's any other question that we missed while Pulkit types in his question. Um, and we have the whiteboard specification as well. Uh, all right. I guess Pulkit's not there, but so Shaunak, thank you very much. It was a pleasure
Thank
hosting you, and yeah, thank you for all the wisdom that you've given us. I am awed by your persistence, your ability to handle 20 applications, you getting 12 interviews. This is phenomenal scholarship. That was really really good, and thank you for being an e-GMatter and for that phenomenal success.
thank you, Rajat. Thank you. I appreciate this.
Mm.
If anyone of you want to connect me, you can connect me over LinkedIn. I would say, yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
Hit me
use the
up at any
strategies that
time.
Shaunak used. Use that on him. He has to
Just
pay back
don't
Shaunak.
ask. Just don't ask them to write your essays.
Yes, just don't
That's
ask
it.
him to write your essay. Yes.